Hey guys, it's Noel, and it's been a while since I've done a video. I feel a little bit nervous actually. It's been so long sitting down, turning my camera on. But I'm sure a lot of you know that I am a massive fan of Beyerdynamic's DT 770 Pro. In particular, their AT-ohm version, which I find quite enjoyable. In terms of a closed-back headphone, at least, it's quite difficult to find a good closed-back headphone. And when you have a headphone like this, which costs about, what, £100, £120, that sort of region, beating this is turning out to be incredibly difficult. And I'm not seeing many other closed-back headphones anywhere near this price, apart from obviously the K371, but that has its own, as you probably well know if you've seen a lot of my videos in the past, that headphone has its flaws, let's put it that way, in terms of build quality, where you couldn't say that about the DT770 Pro. This one I modified with a removable cable myself. I think the AT-ohm version comes with a 3-meter straight cable, which was way too long for my taste. I prefer a coil cable because I sit at my desk most of the time. Anyway, Beyerdynamic have just released 2 new products. The DT700, I've got to remember these names, the Beyerdynamic DT700 Pro X and the DT900 Pro X. These are supposed to be successors, I suppose. I don't know if you want to call them replacements. They're probably not replacements. I'd imagine Beyerdynamic are keeping the 770 and the 990 around, but the 700 Pro X and the 900 Pro X are designed to be, I suppose, upgrades or new generation versions of the 770 and the 990. So I have the 700 Pro X here today. I also have the 900 Pro X ready to take a look at. We're going to take a first look. We're just going to do a first impressions today because I obviously haven't had the time to do a full review, but I wanted to get a video out because I'm really excited about these headphones and I really hope that they're going to be good. I hope they're going to be good. Now, pricing is a fair bit more than the existing 770 Pro and 990 Pro. So these have got their work cut out for them. They're going against the 770 and the K371s, I suppose. So for them to come in, actually I paid £220 for these. For them to come in at that price point, then they're really going to have to do something a little bit special in order to stand out from what is really unbeatable value with the 770. And also, as long as you can get around the build issues, unbeatable sound quality with the K371 at those price points. So I haven't even unboxed this yet. We're going to take a look at it together. We're going to experience this brand new headphone together. They've actually changed the packaging versus previous Beyerdynamic models, where you had this big sort of flexible box and the headphone was sort of clamped around a piece of cardboard. I'm just going to just cut this open here. Nice. My trusty Opinel. I suppose I should put that blade away, really. There's not really a lot else going on this box. It is quite straightforward. So we've got contents on the back here and some basic specifications. Not even the full specifications. So anyway, let's just get it open and take a look, shall we? Okay, this is a completely different unboxing experience to previous Beyerdynamic headphones. And this is the product itself. Okay, I'll just take a look at what we've got here. So we've got some documentation. Of course, with these 2 headphones, the 700X, 700 Pro X and the 900 Pro X, they're also releasing 2 microphones. The idea is, I think that they're going for bedroom producers and probably video producers, people like YouTubers and things like that. So kind of, I suppose I'm the target audience for this headphone from what they're saying. Although I think more than anything, they're probably looking at bedroom music producers and things like that than they are video producers. So we've got some documentation. And in the back here, we've got a little, "Dear creator, we are delighted that you have purchased the Pro X. These headphones will be a reliable, trustworthy, and honest companion for your creative productions, discoveries, travel, and field trips. We're excited to see and hear what springs from your inspiration. Creators make the world a nicer and sometimes even better place. This is why we are proud to make our contribution to your projects. Your Beyerdynamic ProX team. Okay. Let's throw that out of the way. The cables must be in here somewhere, but let's get all this out. We've got some more documentation inside from the looks of it. What have we got in here? Yeah, just a guide to the various products from the looks of it, and headphones instructions. Do you need instructions for a pair of headphones? Well, I mean, maybe. How to change the headband, how to change the earpads. This is good. It's good that they include this information. Not many headphone companies actually include things like that, like how to replace certain parts, which is good. The Sony MDR7506 did actually come with a complete parts manual on the back of the box, which was really good. I really love to see companies that actually care about the repairability and the future longevity of their product. This is one of the reasons why I have a lot of criticism for the K371. While I think it sounds superb, the build quality is just shocking as far as I'm concerned. The fact that it is not user serviceable in any way, the fact that you can't seem to get any replacement parts anywhere, the fact that it is already a fairly weak design that falls apart quite easily. I will recommend the headphone on its sound quality. I do not recommend the headphone if you want something that you're going to use on a daily basis in an environment where you're going to be chucking it in a bag, you're going to be just chucking it around on the side, and it's going to take a daily abuse headphone. If you're just going to kick back and listen to some music on it, I'm sure it's going to be fine if you look after your stuff. But, you know, professional level gear doesn't tend to get looked after very well. So anyway, let's have a look at what we've got in this part of the box. And we have what looks to be a soft carrying pouch. My camera's really overexposing, isn't it? This is not good. We have a couple of cables. So I'm just going to get this box out of the way. I'm not sure if there's anything else. No, there's nothing else in here. So let's just get this out of the way. Right, so we've got a soft carrying pouch. This is sort of it's an interesting material. It's kind of, I don't know what to call this. It's kind of like a stretchy, maybe almost like a lycra material, but it's really nice actually, much better than some of the other soft bags that Beyerdynamic have provided, which are just basically just plasticky little pouches. So we got two cables. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a coil cable, which is disappointing for me. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I love coil cables. Again, like I say, I listen at my desk about an arm's length from my amplifier, so I don't need a really, really long cable. Now, the good thing that Beyerdynamic have done here, and I really wish that Sennheiser would get on with this as well, because Sennheiser tend to keep supplying those really long 3-meter cables with 1/4-inch jacks on the end, which in a world where many of us listen at our desks, it's just unnecessary. That belongs at a time when people are listening to their hi-fis, so they're sat in a chair and the hi-fi unit is across the room. Anyway, you've got that 3-meter cable with the 700 Pro X if you want it. They are using a 3-pin mini XLR at the one end, and they are using a 3.5mm jack with a screw-on 1/4-inch adapter. This is the absolute perfect setup as far as I'm concerned. You can screw on your 1/4-inch adapter and use it as 1/4-inch all the time as much as you want. Just unscrew it and you've got a 3.5mm jack. I think that's much better than having other non-screwable adapters, and much better than Sennheiser's way of having a fixed 1/4-inch adapter and then expecting you to adapt that down to 3.5-inch if you want. 3.5mm, sorry. And so this one here is 1.8 meters, same idea. You've got a screw-on 1/4-inch adapter with a 3.5mm jack, which is perfect. And what's this? I guess this is some kind of cable management or little lanyard thing. That's interesting. Okay. So maybe you would, I don't really know, perhaps put your cables in and then cinch it down. That's unique. It's something I've never seen any other headphone company do before. Although I'm not sure how to undo it now I've done it up. So perhaps don't do that, because it doesn't seem to slide backwards and forwards. Not easy. It only seems to slide one way, which is strange. Okay, well, I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. Perhaps it isn't a cable management thing. Maybe it's just a little trinket. Keyring, maybe. Right, cables aside, let's take a look at the headphone themselves. They actually have a fair bit of weight to them. Are they actually heavier? They are heavier than the original 770 Pro. And bear in mind, I have done the cable mod on these. So there is a little bit of extra metal here than there would be on the originals, although we don't have the cable attached. But these ones are definitely heavier. I can't remember how much these ones weigh. I'll maybe put it on screen or something. But the first thing, I think the very first thing, when I pick them up, the very first thing that I notice is how soft these, and deep, and plush, these earpads are. These are incredible. Now, I've always found Beyerdynamic's earpads to be incredibly comfortable, although over time the padding does give. Subjectively, actually, over time, as the earpads wear, the sound does change a little bit. Objectively, the sound does change, and subjectively, I find that when the sound does change, they actually improve a little bit as the earpads wear. I think the same goes for the 990. I haven't actually tried the 990, but from what I've seen, the 990 actually gets a little bit less bright as the earpads wear, which is the same as what happens with the DT770 as the earpads wear. That treble peak does come down a little bit. So take a look at these headphones then. We've got just a sort of a flat, we've just got a flat sort of surface on the back of the ear cup, unlike the 770, which had a sort of a ridge down the middle with the nameplate on it, which is quite an old school look. This is definitely a more modern and cleaner design. We've still got the metal yoke. This metal yoke that you see on the 770 is the same as the yoke that you get on pretty much all of the Beyerdynamic headphones, whether it's the 990, the 880, the 1990, but just about all of them, really. This one is slightly different in that it's got a kind of like a twist to the ends. On the top of the headband, we actually have a sort of a soft touch plastic or a rubberized feel to the top, which is actually probably the biggest departure, apart from the earpads, the biggest departure from previous Beyerdynamic designs. Pretty much every Beyerdynamic headphone that I've ever seen, I don't know if there are any exceptions, but at least the DT, the ones based on the same DT 880 and 990 and all that shape, they all use a sort of a spring steel headband with some kind of headband padding wrapped around the spring steel. In the case of the 770s, you have this poppers, this soft padding that's poppered around. With the 880, which I have just here, the 880, it's the same sort of idea, but instead of using poppers to keep it in place, it just sort of folds over itself, and then these little metal tabs then hold it in place. The 990 is, again, very similar design, where it has a spring steel on the inside, and it has a sort of pleather padding that's wrapped around. And this time, unlike the 880, where it sort of folds under itself on the top, this one folds under itself on the inside, and then it's sort of clamped in place with the little plastic pieces here. But with the 700 Pro X, what we have is, it seems like, I assume it's still spring steel underneath, but it's all encased in this sort of soft touch plastic, or it's like I would say this is soft touch plastic. It's not fully rubber, but it's not like a hard plastic. And then we have a pleather style headband padding on the inside, which looks like it can be pulled off. There's a little tab here, which I haven't obviously got to this point. You've seen me unbox this. I haven't actually pulled this. I haven't actually checked the instructions to see if that's exactly what you do, but I think you probably just pull this out and then you can remove this and replace it. So it's good to see that there are still replaceable parts on there. One of the more traditional things I think that this has that is pretty much in place on every other Beyerdynamic except the ones that connect on both sides. You have that little cable here which connects via the headband to connect both ear cups together. This is a hallmark Beyerdynamic feature, I suppose, which some people like and some people don't. It doesn't really bother me. Although the one thing I do worry about is my cat getting after them and chewing through them, which would be quite annoying. The simple answer to that is just don't let my cat near my headphones, but you can never watch the cat all the time. Looks like we've got a bit of rotation here in the ear cup, in the headband, which is very similar to what you had with the 770 as well. That little bit of rotation, although it is much smoother actually. Much smoother. With the 770, it almost sort of like clicks and clunks, and it's a bit unrefined, I suppose is the word. It's not something that has ever bothered me, but you know, it's an old school design, and it probably needed a little tweak and a little refinement, and it looks like that's what they've done here with the 700 Pro X. So adjustments, you've got nice positive clicks, very similar, in fact, to the 770. So you've got the little dots on the inside there that you also have with the 770. And I think they probably adjust better. Yeah, they do. I think this is much smoother and much more positive, much more refined. Again, refined. I think this might be the word to use. The 700 Pro X, at least in terms of build, seems to be a refined version of the 770, updated with modern features. And also, let's just take a look at the inside of the earpads. You can see that they've also got some kind of padding on the inside, which actually reminds me a lot of the padding on the inside of the Tiger 300R, which I still haven't done a video on, which I'm going to, where it seems like they are doing some kind of driver tuning by using some padding on the inside of the earpads. Whereas with the 990 and the 770, you just had a little simple piece of foam, which doesn't have any kind of variances in thickness. It's just a thin piece of foam covering the driver on the inside of the ear cup, which is probably doing something in terms of tuning the headphone, but not to the same level. Here, as we can see, we've got a thick disc in the middle, which is quite thick, and you've also got some little grooves all the way around the outside there of this padding. Very similar, in fact, to the Tiger. You can see with the Tiger, we've got this thick disc in the middle, which is much thicker than the padding around the outside. So I think this is something to do with how they're tuning the headphone, padding in front of the driver, as well as padding of the earpads material, the thickness, the depth, all contributes to the tuning of a headphone. In fact, the Tiger 300R, a lot of people say that this is a better DT 990 because it's not quite as bright, it's not quite as sharp. Although they do measure incredibly similarly, the Tiger 300R is basically a 32 ohm DT 990 in a DT 800 body, I suppose. I don't yet have a 990 here. I've been planning to get one. It's another like 120 quid. I've just spent £440 on 2 pairs of these. This is a lot of money. If I pick up the 990 at some point, I will do some direct comparisons. I would really like to get the 990 in soon before I do the 900 and the Tiger, really, but I may have to do the reviews without that direct comparison and then do that direct comparison later. So to summarize then, with the build physical features, it is heavier, which I think is probably a negative, which is probably the only negative that I can see. In terms of the actual build, it seems like they've gone for refinements. It looks nicer, it feels nicer. We've got refinements to the adjustability and the hinge mechanisms. We've got much improved ear pads and padding on the inside. We've still got replacement headband padding without that really old school, which, subjectively I actually really liked. But I know some people probably think that it's a bit janky, the old school, like, wrapped around padding on the headband. And obviously the most important thing, we have a removable cable. Finally, that's something that we've been asking for from Beyerdynamic for years and years and years at this point. Please update the DT770 with a removable cable. In fact, actually, that removable cable video that I did, the mod video, is probably one of my most successful videos. I really enjoyed doing that video as well, which is good. Highly recommend this mod if you have a 770. Highly recommend it. The whole point of that video is that if I can do it, then anyone can do it, quite frankly, with my shaky hands. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So if you have a pair of 770s and you're sick of that fixed cable, just go ahead and do the mod already. I'll leave a link to my video, so go ahead and watch that if you really want to learn how to do it. Like I said, it's not like some expert guide on how to do it. To quote the everyday dad, if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. That's probably enough talking about the physicals, the build, and all that stuff. You know on this channel that I'm big into build quality and durability and longevity of a build. I know I like to talk about comfort and build quality a lot on this channel. There's plenty of other channels out there that focus purely on sound. If that's what you want, then this channel's probably not for you. I think I've talked about the actual physicals on this one enough at this point. So I'm going to have a quick listen. I'm going to listen to some tracks and just get a first impressions of how they sound. I'm not going to go into a great amount of detail. That's what this video is about. It's just first impressions, not the full review. I will do the full review later. So I'll just have a little listen now and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so I've done a bit of listening with the DT700 Pro X, and my initial thoughts are that they seem to have a similar amount of bass in terms of bass volume to the 770. I don't think there's a huge amount of difference there, but they do have a little bit more bass extension. So they tend to have a little bit more sub bass, which does give it a little bit more weight. If we think back to the DT770's frequency response, many people would call it sort of W-shaped because it has like a rise in the bass, a little scoop in the low mids, and then a bit of a scoop in the upper mids. I'm not sure exactly how much of that exists on this. I think it definitely has a lower mid scoop, probably in a very similar place from what I can hear to the 770. So if that bothered you on the 770, it's probably going to bother you on these as well. Not something that really bothered me all that much. I tend to think if I'm going to listen critically, I'm getting my open back headphones. So what I want from a closed back is a decent sound, and ultimately I want comfort and build and things like that. So so far these are delivering upper mids and then into the treble. I'm not sure on the upper mids. I need to do a little bit more listening, but in terms of treble, I think there's definitely less treble energy than on the 770. I don't think that the 8K peak that exists on the 770 exists on these, and if it does, it's certainly a lot less. And whether it's in a slightly different place than 8K, I don't know, but certainly it's a lot less bright than the 770. And unfortunately as well, it also has a bit less treble extension, a little less air, you know. It kind of sounds a little bit more dull than the 770. Now, if you found the 770 to be too bright, these are probably okay for you. If, however, you enjoyed how the 770 sounds in its treble and its air and treble extension, then you might find that some of that detail's lacking in the 700, and that's how I feel right now. That my opinion might completely change and flip on its head after a bit more listening, but that's how I'm feeling right now. Staging though is pretty good. It's up there with the 770. Staging on the 770 is actually better than some open back headphones. It's really, really good, and this is, I would say, up there actually. It's actually one of the first things I noticed when I put them on is they sound kind of spacious. Other thoughts after wearing them for a little while is the ear pads are fantastic. They're super, super, super soft. They feel amazing. Because they're nice deep memory foam ear pads, they do tend to seal around my glasses really, really well, which some headphones, they don't seal around glasses very well. So if you're a glasses user like myself, these are glasses wearer approved, absolutely. Unlike the AKG K702, which I cannot use with my glasses on at all, which is really disappointing. Clamping force is noticeably higher than on the 770, and also the weight is noticeably higher than the 770. which is disappointing, really, because one of the great things about the 770 is it's super comfortable, and it's really comfortable to listen to for long, extended periods. You know, I would tend to use them for gaming and things like that, and general use at my desk, and that's where I really, really appreciate the comfort. So with the 700s, whilst they have some really great ear pads, I think that the extra clamping force offsets that a little bit, and also the extra weight. It's got some decent padding here on the headband, but they are noticeably heavier, and almost to the point that they're similar to the DT 1990, both in terms of clamping force and weight on top of the head. That's about all I've got to say really about the 700 Pro X for now. I think they are absolutely, definitely an upgrade in terms of build quality, in terms of fit and finish, in terms of, you know, just a refreshed modern design. In many ways, you could say, instead of adding a removable cable to the 770, what they've done is they've gone, what would the 770 look like? What would it be? What kind of headphone would it be if we designed it from the ground up today? The exact same concept, but let's design it with today's technology, with today's build, and things like that. So we've got a real good quality plastic. We've got some really great quality materials. We've got that removable cable. It's a whole new driver concept. Super easy to drive, really easy to drive. That's something else that I tested. The great thing about that is they're going to run on low-powered audio interfaces, like the consumer-grade audio interfaces that creators would tend to use at home. So in many ways, you could say that these are a reboot of the DT770. In terms of sound, I'm saying that they're probably more of a side grade. So whether or not that extra £100 is worth it or not, I'm going to leave that call until I make my full review, but I could go either way on that. Anyway, that's going to be it for this first look at the Beyerdynamic DT700 Pro X. If you want to see the full review, which will be out at some point, then make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. It's been a bit of a long video, and I haven't scripted this. It's just straight off the top of my head. I wanted to get my first impressions down, and I wanted you to come along for the journey if you want. But that's about all I've got to say for today, so thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.